You know why metal isn't working out? You know why metal's not huge? Because we're all bald, we're all fat, we chase girls away, and we're greedy sons of bitches. No, those aren't my words. No, they aren't. I actually tend to think that we're all pretty awesome individuals, except, well, I am getting a little bald. But this shirt is huge. So this is words actually from Kevin Lyman. Kevin Lyman is one of the co-founders of the Rockstar Energy Mayhem Festival. And I have to react to this video, mainly because I feel that a lot of the things that he states are going to be misconstrued by a lot of individuals, and I kind of want to give my take and sort of guide everybody through this, all things considered. So, very much to the nature of the first ever CKN Reacts, which was to Asking Alexandria's comments about Metallica, I'm going to read each of the paragraphs here, and I'm going to give a little reaction to both. Kevin Lyman, pictured. I'm not going to give you the picture because he's actually probably one of the main reasons why girls don't want to be in metal. Is the co-founder of the annual Rockstar Energy Mayhem Festival. He has told the Detroit Free Press that the tour is at risk of going away at any given moment due to the limited number of headline-worthy acts in metal. That's really, really fucking hysterical. Considering the typical lineup that they have at the main stage, the typical gamut of bands that they tend to seem to circle around and just sort of parade through, it seems as though it's not the fact that there aren't a number of headlining bands or headline-worthy acts in the scene. It's more so, in his eyes, they're not headline-worthy. They're not going to make him the maximum amount of money, which is a good, decent practice if you're a businessman. You really want to chase and follow the money. But whenever you are citing the entire scene based around that finding for your tour, what you think will make money as opposed to what may make money, then you're getting into sketchy territory. And plus, you're actually not doing the scene any favors by doing that. Think of the people that you've introduced with your second stages and things like that. Think of the number of fans that they have probably been able to accumulate based around that. I remember bands such as Red Fang or All Shall Perish being on the second stage a couple years ago whenever I went to a Mayhem Fest, and that was a really cool experience. And I'm sure that a lot of people really fell in love with All Shall Perish and Red Fang based around that show. I became a Red Fang fan that day, and got to talk to All Shall Perish a couple of days after I posted the video about their latest record, which was really kind of neat. Moving on. The bands at the top all demand a certain level of fee to be on tour, he said. Unlike punk rock, metal has never knows how to take a step back to move the whole scene forward. That's how punk rock was. That's how we nurtured punk rock. Bad Religion would take a little less than they could on their own to bring the whole scene forward, so we could make sure we had a good touring package around them. Metal doesn't seem to have that concern. Never has. Never has since I was working in the clubs in the 80s. It was always a me, me, me thing. So Warped Tour is punk music now. I know, it's a bit of an ancient argument. It's one that's been made with CKN Reacts to Warped Tour, but it's kind of the truth. Whenever it comes to what punk was all about, whenever it first manifested itself in the late 1970s and what it grew to be in the 80s and what it is now, there's kind of a night and day principle there. You don't have a punk show, you have a pop punk show. If you think that that's splitting hairs just to split hairs, then you really have just sort of missed the entire point. If you think that you're running a punk extravaganza, you're not. This is also more of a garbage trend than anything else. It's not going to last. And one of the main reasons why Bad Reception is willing to do that is because of Bad Religion, is because of Bad Religion's general outlook and general personality type. That's just the way that they are. Plus, they're also an insanely successful band within the scene. Does it necessarily mean that they've brought the whole entire scene forward? Whenever it comes to traditional and actual legitimate punk music similar to what Bad Religion has delivered for the past, 20 to 30, maybe even longer years, no, they haven't. Because what has actually manifested from this is actually a hybrid of pop and punk that is in no way, shape, or form what Bad Religion is talking about. If you're wondering about Bad Reception, that was a short-lived project between a friend of mine and me back whenever we were in high school. So that's why I'm making the mistake and the miscue. Regarding Mayhem's 2015 lineup, which includes Slayer, King Diamond, Hell Yeah, and The Devil Wears Prada, Lyman said it was the best available for what we had to work with. We had pressure to keep the package at a certain price, and to make that work, we had pressure on headliner expenses. In addition, there are fewer acts on the bill, and only 2 stages this time around because we had to condense it, Lyman said. The expenses of putting on those shows have gotten high, so we had to push it all into the concourses. They, meaning the venues, don't want to build a fence outside for 3rd and 4th stages anymore. Those things cost money. This year's Rockstar Energy Mayhem Festival kicked off June 26th in Chula Vista, California, and will wrap up August the 2nd in Dallas, Texas. So Slayer and King Diamond, Hell Yeah, these groups is the best of what was available. The best of what was available. Now, I've heard a lot of different arguments about this, and I want to diffuse a lot of things right now. The first thing is the fact that there are a lot of European packages over there that do actually offer a little bit more of a sweet package to musicians of this variety. And that's mainly because whenever these different festivals take place, there are a plethora of bands, not to mention a whole hell of a lot of fans. We're talking at least 70,000 plus in some of these different locations. These are places where there will be fans that are from the surrounding area that will essentially perform an exodus to this location in order to be a part of it, considering it has garnered a reputation to always have fantastic acts that really represent the genre very well. The real problem here, actually, is the fact that Rockstar Energy Mayhem Festival hasn't exactly created that style of a reputation. By this article, by itself, it really does indicate just how much of this is based around the monetary ideal of everything. So perhaps what actually needs to be done here is a little bit of a revisitation to some things that we've talked about prior. The fact that here in America, it really seems like the overall scene whenever it comes to putting on live shows and getting them together, and really how everybody seems to really be looking out for number one, is kind of the way that things are going. But to say that you should actually encourage a band to sacrifice their living. Now, some of these bands, I understand, do have money available to them. They're not poor. But some of them, perhaps, are pretty tight. And they're the ones that are actually making you the money. That's what I don't understand about all of this. I get that this is something that takes a great amount of effort, not to mention it does take a great amount of money to put this on, to kind of get all of these different things together, these different sponsors, these different, little booths and different things where other commerce can take place. And yes, I do understand that the bands do ask for a cut, and the bands are probably asking for a little bit more considering this is exposure. But it's exposure in a market that traditionally is not one that's getting the push. You talk so heavily about punk music. You're almost promoting this scene, you're almost promoting Warped Tour within this very conversation, even though you're doing it in just a comparative manner. When in reality, whenever it comes to the Rockstar Energy Mayhem Festival, it's really not a true representation of all that heavy metal has to offer. In fact, it's one that really does perform itself and stays very comfortable within what we consider to be the heavy metal mainstream, only deviating from those passages and going further and deeper into extreme metal for its secondary and tertiary acts or stages. Now, am I saying that this should be something that always represents the underground and everything like that? No, absolutely not, because whenever you think about it, there are other festivals that handle this situation just fine and are able to do exactly as the European tours do and cause an exodus, such as the New England Metal Fest or the New England Death Fest or the Maryland Death Fest and the other different festivals that do populate and are very regional ideas as opposed to ones that require this national idea. Think about this. Think about your costs of travel. Think about your costs of consistent setup. Why not actually divide your efforts into multiple crews for different areas and try to set up regional fests and just have it so coincide with the tours of some of these groups where they can maybe perform 3 or 4 shows. Get a revolving door. Get something where actually bands can commit to 5 or 6 shows and still go on with the remainder of their tours while also helping to support the scene that way. And I think the largest problem that I have with this article is the fact that you're claiming that this is all based around the fact that metalheads have grown older, so now they are balding, now they are aged, and they have discouraged women because of how dangerous the music sounds and everything like that. I know a lot of female metalheads. That's kind of the point and the draw. At least part of it. Others will like it because there's just as many females out there. In fact, females in heavy metal have really been on the rise in the past, I would say 5 to 7 years, as there are males. There are now groups that definitely sport some great sales figures that are female-fronted. I'm thinking and looking at you, Lacuna Coil. I'm thinking and looking at you, Arch Enemy. I'm thinking and looking at many other groups as well, including names such as In This Moment and Within Temptation. It's right within your own avenue of potential. It's right there! Because there are still bands that are considered to be a little bit safe and actually go a little bit closer toward teetering to the mainstream. So it's based around the fact that we are old, we're bald, we're aged, we're grumpy little assholes that want money, and because we are cavemen and don't want women. Or we want women, but none of them show up and we wonder why. Dude, I think if you spent half the time that you did speaking and thinking this way and formulating this opinion into trying to find a way to reinvent the wheel a little bit, I understand that that's a bit of a difficult topic because that may involve a little bit of money, or it may involve a little bit of thought. It may involve more than just centering it around an energy beverage. And no, this isn't a Rockstar versus Monster conversation. All of a sudden, the Monster is the clear winner. This is something where you need to look at what the individuals that you are targeting want and what they desire. And instead of claiming that this lineup, which is actually not that bad, which is actually pretty good with bands such as Slayer and King Diamond on there, instead of complaining about that being the bottom of the barrel and essentially insulting the people that are on your tour, and essentially saying, yeah, you're here, but you're a dick to me and wanted this and wanted that, maybe you should actually focus on doing something for the scene yourself, and do this for the music, and do this for the experience. This is freaking unbelievable. You want to know why you think the scene is dying? You're actually one of the reasons why. That kind of attitude that you're pushing, that kind of negative thought that you're pushing, that kind of negative behavior that you're pushing is just as damaging as the things that you cite. Just as damaging as the idea that more money is needed and they're expecting more and expecting this. Yeah, that's bad too, but your attitude doesn't fucking help. That doesn't fucking help. Bottom line, if you're living in an area that has a regional tour or a regional festival that's somewhat close to you, and I'm sure that there are some at least, then I encourage that you definitely go to those, participate in those, because I'm really thinking that Rockstar Mayhem Festival is not one to really see. And it's nothing against Slayer, it's nothing against King Diamond. Actually, go and see them this year, but after this, I mean, do you really want to support some sort of whiner like this? This is ridiculous. I think it's time, and Nation, how cool would it be if there was a CKN music/metal festival? If that's what it's going to take in order for this to change a little bit, and for some of this whining to stop, and for some of this bullshit to stop, maybe a crowdfund is in the future. Jesus.